Did you know that on some of your retirement accounts, the government has a mandatory distribution called an RMD? Now find out in this video some of the questions we get about RMDs and maybe some ways to start planning for them before they happen. Welcome everyone, this is the Financial Beat YouTube channel. I'm Logan Sadler. I am the host of the Financial Beat. Again, I actually am a financial advisor. I help people plan and prepare for retirement. Most of our clients are typically in that retirement phase and trying to get things together to help get them to and through retirement. So again, a lot of the people we work with are typically 50 or 60 years old and kind of gearing up for retirement. Maybe even a little bit older, maybe even a little bit younger. But again, in this channel, we're just here to give you some good education and some insight here on some of those things that we talk about all of the time. So I wanted to talk about RMDs. That stands for Required Minimum Distribution. Now, many of you might have heard of these and been very aware of them and understand them incompletely, but there's a lot of people out there who might not, right? And so what are the risks and what do RMDs look like and how can they impact a retirement plan? I want to talk about three things here that are pretty common when looking at RMDs, right? So let's talk about what an RMD is. So essentially when you hit 72 it was 70, I should say, 70 and a half. And then the Secure Act came out in 2020 and they changed it to 72. Now you're watching this video, it's probably 2023. And now what has happened is they changed it again with the Secure Act 2.0 with more to follow on that. But basically, they've now increased it depending on your age. If you're older already, they're increased it to 73. If you're under 64 right now, they've increased it up to 75. But we'll cover that more specifically in another video. Right now, let's say it's 73 years old as your RMD. Any 401ks and IRAs that you have out there, if you're no longer working, are basically what are going to have to be subject to a required minimum distribution. So let's say you have $1 million in your retirement accounts. Essentially, you'll have to start taking out between 3 or 4%, depending on what exact age you are. Essentially, extra money will now be having to come out of that account and realized as ordinary income. So for some of you that have retirement accounts that you're going to be drawing off of anyway, and maybe a lot of money out of those accounts, this might not really be much of a worry to you. But for a lot of you out there that have planned on maybe leaving these behind to beneficiaries or not utilizing these till you get a little bit older, this is where a lot of the turbulence can come in because you are required to take these distributions. Now that we know what an RMD is and how they kind of work for essentially, what are some of the questions we get to this, right? So basically some of the big talking points we have to cover is a lot of clients say, well, what if I don't take them, right? Well, unfortunately, like most things out there, if you don't take them, there is rules against that and there is penalties that will apply. Typically, it's around 50% penalty on the required minimum distribution amount, right? Up to 50% of the amount that was supposed to be distribution. It can be quite hefty, right? So when you look at those, it's very important to understand you want to take your RMD. I see a lot of people out there, well, maybe they won't catch me or I'm not too worried about it. Chances are they will. So you want to make sure you're following those guidelines and making sure your RMD is calculated correctly. Make sure you're working with a qualified financial advisor or a CPA or someone to help calculate that and work with your companies on those to make sure it's calculated correctly. Number two, I hear a lot of the times is, what can I do about the RMD? Is there anything at all I could do about it? Typically, when you're wait till the last minute, it's time to take the RMD, then there's really only a few options. A lot of the times you can do what's called a qualified charitable distribution. If you're one of those people that gives the charity, you can actually gift your RMD amount to charity. There is some restrictions on that, so make sure you're reading in a little bit deeper, but off the top, you can do what's called a qualified charitable distribution and gift that to a qualified charity. Now, that's something that's a really quick way and a good way if you're someone that was going to give close to that amount anyway. But there also is a lot of things you could do ahead of time. I tell people all of the time, there's a lot of planning that can be done before RMD age. Typically, when clients retire in their early 60s or 65, some of us maybe later, we're able to do a lot of really in-depth planning around maybe Roth conversions or other distribution strategies to get money from tax-deferred buckets out into tax-free buckets. So there's a lot of strategies and a lot of planning that could be done ahead of time. I always tell people, in our industry with everything out there, the more time you have, typically the better, right? And this is no different. The more time we have to plan and prepare for RMDs, the more impact we typically can make, and the more efficient and the better outcome will probably be in your favor there. So typically, if you're getting closer to retirement age and maybe you're getting closer to RMD age, it's something where definitely reach out to somebody and make sure that they're helping you kind of navigate through this time frame. Typically, what happens after RMDs come out, right? A lot of people say, well, I have to take a distribution. What can I do with that? I have a lot of clients that will take the distribution out, pay the taxes on it, and then they'll reinvest it into something else that's more tax efficient, maybe an individual brokerage account, annuity, savings, whatever it is. They'll end up reinvesting that money. So you can take the distribution out and reinvest it. You just have to take it out and pay the tax amount based at ordinary income. That's another common question I wanted to cover is how are RMDs taxed? They are taxed at ordinary income. So depending on your ordinary income tax rate is how you are taxed. So it's something where you want to make sure you're really spending a lot of time on the RMDs. If you have IRA or retirement accounts and are getting older, make sure you understand the concept of the RMD and how those are impacted. And I'm going to bring out another video here coming up in the coming weeks on the Secure Act 2.0 that will take a deeper dive into that. And make sure you check out that video because it's going to be very insightful for a lot of you guys that are approaching that, later on in retirement, maybe 60s or 65 or 70. Okay, so hopefully you found this video insightful. Again, if you haven't yet, go ahead and click subscribe. I'm Logan Sadler. We'll be back here again next week with another video.